1, 2, Paley Center. Y'all hear me? What up, man? My name is Rob Markman. Thank y'all for coming. Everybody seated looking so nice. But we're going to have to get a little rowdy for just a second as I introduce the man of the evening, all right? I mean, Grammy Award-winning artist, producer, composer, humanitarian. And above all that, it's culture. He's one of us, right? Like, inspires all of us that we can live limitless and create with no boundaries. So I need y'all to give it up one time for my man Wyclef Jean, please. Two times.
What up, brother? What up, everybody? Everybody.
A little louder, one time.
Oh, that looks dope. Let me get that shit.
That's love.
Check out that.
They look so comfortable. I thought they was gonna let me down, man. But y'all really gave it up.
Nah, they set you up. Trust me, them Haitians was waiting for you to say that. Like, I ain't think of that.
Let's go. Man, when you hear, I mean, just so much, right? We talk about your career in music and all your accomplishments as an artist, as a producer, as a composer, you know, the humanitarian aspect of your life and how you get back to people, man. And when you watch these introductions, and I know you've done a few of these type of things, when you hear your name today, Wyclef Jean, what do you feel it represents?
Well, I think, you know, I think we all have people that we look up to. I still don't know what my name represents because I live inside my body. Right. But I could tell you those that inspired me and who I inspired to be, that made me do what I did. Bob Marley, Fela Kuti, yeah. Bob Dylan, Prince, Jimi Hendrix. These are like some of the people, Nina Simone, who was so defiant. So like, that's just like some of the people that like I looked up to, but sort of like my heroes growing up was more history. So it's like at a very young age, like my dad, he embedded in me, he said, yo, you know, he said, Haiti is within the Americas. So, you know, I got to America when I was like 8 years old, Marlboro Projects.
Yeah.
Coney
Shout
Island.
out to Coney Island.
Yeah,
Listen, I almost got jumped in Marlboro.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
Nah, it's cool.
I take my Nintendo game, man. It was
Nah, it's cool. You know, it's funny you say that because I remember like being on Flatbush, and for the being on Flatbush, like, yo, my first culture shock, I thought, you know, I'm like on Flatbush and I got my sneakers on and dude come up and he's like measuring my joints.
What size? What size at all?
You know? And I'm like, oh, you so nice, boy, there. Check my, next thing you know, bow, take my sneakers, man. And so I think we both had an experience.
Right, because Flatbush is my hood.
Yeah. Damn, but I would say, like, you know, the idea of like, okay, Haiti within the Americas, and then they would tell me these amazing stories about like, yo, Chicago, you know, the founder of Chicago being a Haitian. We talked about like the Louisiana Purchase and like one of the illest deals. So for me, like I never really put a separation of America and the Americas, right? So I was like, yo, if I ever get to America, like I'm going to make it, you know? And so I would say like, so looking up my biggest heroes and superheroes was history, the history of like 1804. Like people like Toussaint, like Jean-Jacques Dessalines. It was sort of like, there was like these superheroes. And like Napoleon, it was literally like Napoleon was like, it was like a whole Avengers, like Napoleon was the, I love my French people, but Napoleon was the evil guy at the time, you know what I'm saying? And all of that, those were like the early days that I learned how to paint picture. And English came because I learned how to rap, right, as a mechanism of self-defense. Like rapping wasn't, because you know, I grew up in a West Indian household with a theologian dad, gave me a theologian name, right? So, you know, rap was called rap, bagay rap sa, bon music. So he was like, translation, rap, That's drug dealer music. And then so he was like, doctor, lawyer, engineer. So you had three choices, doctor, lawyer, engineer. So every time he asked me, I was like, I'm going to be an engineer, but he didn't know I meant audio engineer.
Mix the hell out of them records, boy.
But that's sort of like some of the stuff that come in my head, like when I see my name,
It's funny that you talk about these different points in history being really inspiring to you, because next year is the 30th anniversary of the Carnival, your solo debut. And leading up to that, you're going to drop 7 projects. Quantum Leap is the name of the whole endeavor, right?
Yes.
And Quantum Leap, you talk about history. I hear you talk about history, and Quantum Leap evokes time, history, and time jumps. What does that represent? What does that project represent? And what's its place in history?
Well, I think like, let me take my shades off so people don't think I was smoking weed. But
I mean, we wouldn't judge you.
I know. Especially not in these times. So.
Nah.
So I would say the first thing about Quantum Leap is, so understand Einstein, right, as a physicist, right? And we always talk about like Einstein as a physicist, but the part that we don't talk about Einstein enough is like Einstein was a virtuosus on piano and violin, right? So what happens is, so when you use two sides of your brains, then so for me at the end of the day, there's really no difference. So the idea of like quantum leaping through time, like past, present, future, sometimes we appear in a place and we like, yo, this feels like a deja vu, like I've been here before. Like when we was much younger, we was talking about that show Quantum Leap. Yeah. That was like an old school for the old heads in the building like myself that know about this show. So literally like you can appear past, present, and future. So what that means is 30 years ago, we talk about like the score and the carnival, but in the past 30 years, I've appeared a few places and maybe certain people didn't pay attention to it, right? So if you missed that episode, I'm gonna take it back to you there. So for example, like it's one time in the past 30 years, I appeared, it was like this, right? It was a room full of people and there was not one black person in the room.
Oh man.
And then the dude, so I get the call from Rick Rubin. And Rick Rubin like, yo, Clef, it's the Johnny Cash tribute. I'm gonna need you here. And where you at? And I was like, I'm in Italy. So I get there, and now Rick Rubin's the only one that knows like how amazing I am in country music.
Right.
So like, I know everyone was shocked. So I get up there, and guy introduces me, like, yo, rebel like, guys like Wyclef John, right? And then I go up there, and now you see, after this, they all gonna hit Google and be like, yo, let me check this out. So, and I get my guitar, and I do an obscure Johnny Cash song called Delia's Gone. So, see, a lot of people in the room, they miss that leap, right? So in the 7 quantums, when you hear like one of the quantums is a country album, right? And then you hear people like Melissa Everidge on the album. You hear like the intro by the late Kenny Rogers. No AI, it's really Kenny Rogers. We have to say that, right?
Right, yeah.
You hear people like Drake White on the album. Then you're like, did I miss something? So then you go back and you do your history of the leap. So that's literally the idea. And I was telling you like before, like earlier when we was talking, I felt like I left at a time where I didn't want to leave, right? When I said that I'm gonna like embark and try to run and become president of my country. So like, you gotta understand like what makes like, it's like president of Haiti. Right. Like what, and I'm on like, stage every night, 30,000 people in arenas, and then you go, and I have this epiphany, man. And it's like, I'm like, I can always do music, but I can't see myself leaving the planet. And when a young kid in a village is reading a history book, And he's like, yo, man, well, when the earthquake happened, what was Wyclef Jean? Oh, he was shaking his ass with Shakira in Brazil. You know, that story just, it didn't add up, right? So, I'm saying I love shaking my ass, but I'm saying, pause.
I ain't want to say it in front of Paley.
Yo, you was about to give me a Damon Dash moment. Pause. Right?
So I look at it and I say, I leave what I love the most, man, and then I sacrifice myself. But I always felt like, man, like I just felt like there was a part missing. So for me, I feel like the 7 will just complete that arc, right? Maybe it's something internal for me. Maybe the crowd's already satisfied, right? But I just felt like I had to take the arc of like these 7 was very important because I felt like 7 being the number of completion, and I felt like I needed to complete that arc.
Nah, well that's beautiful, and you know that's the beauty of art, right? Like,
Facts.
and maybe even the beauty of, look, man, you've accomplished so much, awards, plaques that I didn't even know what a diamond plaque was until the score.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's afforded you the ability now of, you know, it's great to be like, yo, but I still have something to say. I've accomplished so much, but creatively, I still have something to say. I still have a mission. And I salute you for that, man. I want to go back 30 years, you know, since we're talking about Quantum Leap, to when the score came out, 1996. I remember where I was, and I remember what that did to me and my friends and to hip hop. One of the most important hip hop albums ever made. 2 questions. When was the last time you listened to it? And when you revisit it, whenever you revisit it, what stands out to you the most?
I probably heard this score like 3 years ago. Yeah. What I love about music, it just takes us back to exactly that time and that place. It's like we all know when our first kiss happened. Like we all know when the fight happened. We knew who got shot on the block. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We knew who was extorting, we knew who was, it just takes you through smell, touch, feel, imagination. So for me, that's what it did. And then, you know, like I lost like John Forte,
Rest
right?
in peace.
Rest in peace to John Forte. So I remember like one of the last tours that we did, right? Well, we still on tour, but one of the tours we did was with John Forte, and we brought out like the Outsiders. And just Young Z, everybody came out. And so, you know, John Forte was, when I hear the score, the most amazing thing about the score is it reminds me like of an old Western, because everybody on the score was shooters, and they all were lethal and had their own style. So it was sort of like either a Western, or I don't know if anyone used to watch Channel 5 Karate, like with the Shaw Brothers, with all of these amazing, you know, Forte was like the drunken master. You had it was similar to like the Wu-Tang, but different. So this is sort of like we was talking off, and I was telling you what I loved most about the score was, so I was like that kid that was like a thug nerd, and this is real. You could ask anyone. I knew how to use, I could code, I could do all that at a young age, and I used to have a gun. So thug nerd. So, you know, and I'm in East Orange, New Jersey. You already know how it's gonna go down. And then at the time, I was listening to Pink Floyd, The Wall. And then, so when I'm listening to Pink Floyd, The Wall, and then I was like, I want the engineering to sound like that. So the first thing I did, I started reading on, so I would be the kid that would read on the manuals. So when people go on and they're looking at the vinyls and they're reading, looking at the stars, I would go straight to the engineering and what kind of microphones are being used. Cause I was like, yo, if I could get the score to sound like a fraction of how this record gonna sound, we're gonna be home. So in doing that, cause keep in mind, the score was done inside of a small, tiny basement. In a Booger basement in my uncle's house behind the crack house. So literally this album that everyone loves, that sells over 10 million albums, that keeps on. So now today it's normal. you can walk around with your computer and actually do music from anywhere you at. 30 years ago, this did not exist. So how did we actually just take my uncle's basement, we gutted it out, we bought patch bays in, we built an entire facility inside of this small basement. And I only say that because when we talk about tech, and we talk about technology, and we talk about the advancement 30 years later, the score was done with hardware, which then later today get converted into software. But let me just nerd out for a second to show y'all how deep this is. So when you listen to a record like Killing Me Softly, when you hear it starts off, throw me my pain, where this pain go? One time, 2 times, right? And then, yo, the worst thing about having a hit is having a hit, right? Because they'd forget your name. Like I'd be like, you go to the airport. Come on, Wyclef, say it just to my kid. Fuck, one time. So we're doing the score, and we don't really have a budget like that. Right. So then we're like, yo, man, we need a Fender Rhodes. The Fender Rhodes, anyone who understands, y'all know what a Fender Rhodes is, y'all know what that sounds like. And I was like, yo, we need a Fender Rhodes. When I'm hearing the Roberta Flack version, we can't afford a Fender Rhodes. Then I said, okay, don't worry about the Fender Rhodes. I'm going to create the sound. And I said, the human will never know the difference after I create the sound. They will never know that it's not a Fender Rhodes, right? You go, what the hell are you talking about, Clef, right? So what I did was, sound starts off with an oscillator, sine wave, a tone. Boo, dee. Now from this tone, you can cut up the incronyms. It's like math. And then when you cut up the incronyms, you can think, boo, da, da, da. Now I'm cutting the sine waves and I put it back on the MIDI interface and then I play it. So I'm literally manipulating sound from space and bringing it back into my hands. Now the reason why I tell you that is because what you're listening to is not a Fender Rhodes. If anyone wants to test my theory, the standard of the human sound for music is 440 standard. If you go home and you put on the Killing Me Softly right now, with any instrument that you're playing it with, you have to detune your instrument. It doesn't exist. So I only tell you that because when I tell people that I am the master of AI, AI is not the master of I, that's literally what I'm saying. Like, I use the technology to become my slave, right? And I adapted it to exactly to do what we want. So to me, like when people hear the score and we talk about how dope the album is and the revolution of the music, I just want people to know at the same time, there was a tech revolution like going on all at the same time. And I think like that's the part that I want people to understand, why 30 years later we can still celebrate something that's literally built like the way the pyramid was built, and it could still exist today, to let humans know that the power still can come directly from you. And when it comes from you, you can pull anything out of thin air and you could turn it into something. And that's very important for people, especially like the youth today that's doing music, that's doing inventions. And then when we're in a generation of now AI music, right? So for me, it's like, say, damn, word, like 30 years ago, a bunch of hip hop kids in a basement in Jersey was thinking like that. That's to me was like, that's sort of like the most amazing part. That's what, when I hear the album and I'm cheeking, that's what I'm listening for.
I mean, but also, told your dad you was gonna be an engineer, man. He just manipulated the whole thing. That's live. Okay, can you talk about that having that vision, right? And a lot of us can't understand. Hearing you explain it helps, but there's still a lot more that went into what you just explained, right? A lot of people don't realize that the score wasn't the Fugees' first album. Blended on Reality was. and we were talking backstage, if you could share a little bit of it, that you were under the tutelage of somebody else who kind of directed you what to do, and the differences in the score, you got to do what you wanted to do or what you felt was right. Can you talk about that whole bridge from the first Fugees album to the second one, and really having the freedom to have your vision?
Yeah, so, backstage, you was like, yo, I got that, so you hear the first Fuji hit, which is like, yo, Mona Lisa, can I get a date on Friday? And if you're busy, and you say, yo, man, I got all excited, and I went and I put on this album, Blended on Reality. I'm like, what is this shit, man? This shit don't sound like this. What's going on, right? So
I said it exactly like that. Damn. How rude.
Yo, that's how my ear
That's how you heard
was
it.
all nice about it. My ear was like, this is shit, Wyclef. This is shit. Right? So what's interesting about that is, so Blended on Reality, the Fugees were signed to Kool and the Gang.
Did y'all know that?
Yeah.
See? Gems. Gems.
So the Fugees were signed to Kool and the Gang. Kool's brother, his name is Khalees Bayon. So Khalees Bayon is one of the geniuses of the universe. He's the one who created Jungle Boogie, Celebrate, anything Kool and the Gang. Now this is who we were signed to. So Khalees Bayon, they had a vision. They saw the talent. I used to be a battle rapper on the street. They see the talent. Lauren, amazing singer. They see the talent, and they're like, okay. And at the time, the group that was killing it was a group called Onyx. Onyx! All about Sticky Fingers, that was my guy. So guns, right? It was nuts. To anyone that, if I'm losing you, it was similar to like Nirvana's Teen Spirit. Right. So, and now what the producer's gonna do is, you got the band, and he's gonna be like, look, Clef, I need you to go in there, and there's a guy called Sticky Fingers, and I know you wrote your raps, but I'm gonna need you to project, the Sticky Fingers energy, right? Because again, right, they're looking for what's working at the time, and they gotta go sell it to the label, right? In this process, we're doing this, but it's very painful for me. The reason why it's painful, I'm just a little kid. Who the hell am I to tell Mr. Kool, you know what I'm saying? Like, who's gazillion albums, like, yo, man, this is not it, right? So I'm like, okay, we gotta go with this as long as we can, right? To get a step in the door. And so the step in the door, so the album was called Blended on Reality. Now the step on the door came with the breaking through was that remix. So whenever I watch the movie Ray, and and Amit, Ray Mentor's always like, Ray, you have to find your voice, right? Because Ray was so amazing, like he has 10,000 voices. Right. And that sort of like was the Fugees. Like we have, like literally, I can sound like anyone at any time I choose to. So literally, right, all of these characters is inside of you, and you're searching for yourself, and you're searching for yourself, and you finally find it in the score. So the idea with the score was like, we got a chance now to do exactly what was in our head. And then we was like, we knew that y'all was upset at Blended on Reality, and we clearly made a conscious decision to say, okay, now it's time to settle the score. So we literally was coming back to say, okay, we about to double this dice game, and we about to make it work for you. We was very confident because in what we were doing in our communities, the sound and how it was sounding, doing the music in the basement, we felt like we was ready. And then that produced what then became the score.
Did you ever go back to Kool and the Gang and said, I told you?
No. I didn't, because what happens was, you know how mentors are, right? So at the end of the day, I got amazing mentorship, and I learned so much from Khalees Bayon, because as a student of jazz, like he taught me so much, but in my brain, I was like, everything he teaching me, like I'm gonna bring that to my generation, but I'm gonna make it hip for my generation, because every generation gonna take whatever it is, but they're gonna remix it for their generation and definitely make it hip. And Khalees Bayon ended up passing away. But if y'all ever get a chance, y'all could Google this dude. He's one of the illest saxophone players ever. He's one of the dudes that invented that circulated breathing with the saxophone. Like he's one of like those guys that can actually play the sax, hold his breath, where the note never leaves.
Wow.
Like he's one of those super scientists. So check him out. Yeah.
Wow. So after the score and 10 million copies later, 10 million plus, like you embark on a solo career, or on a solo album, right? To drop the Carnival in 1997. Did you feel pressure? Was there any pressure to define yourself as a soloist and as a producer? Because it was also Wyclef Jean front and center, but you were still orchestrating in a way on that album. Was there pressure for you to do that, or what was it like going into the Carnival?
You see, the thing about is where I came from in my head, right? I'm from a small village. I ate dirt from the floor. Like, I took a donkey to school. So by the time I got to America and I got to the projects, it was like the Jeffersons for me. I done moved on up. So, like, I don't know what kind of pressure in my brain that I would have from a kid who was riding on a donkey. Now he done sold 10 million copies and bought his mama a house, right? So, but again, remember, I live in my head. Even when I was doing the score, I already have 5 more albums in my head. So as I was working on the Carnival in my head, while I was touring the score, I was working on the Carnival. And I was like, okay, I have another idea. So the thing about it is in my brain, the same idea never comes twice. And once I do something, I never want to repeat it. Like somehow my brain is on to the next thing. And then so I started seeing all these colors. I started seeing feathers. And my brain was like, yo, create something with no language. Like language has to be the second part of what you create for your generation, and make the vibration the first part about it, right? Borderless. So then, this is how my brain is thinking. Now, the label ain't thinking like that, right? They're waiting for like, yo, score part, hey, we double that money, baby, like 10 million, right? So here again, right, this quirky Haitian kid show up. Here he goes again, and I'm like, yo, you know, this is my next project, you know, and literally like some Basquiat shit, you know what I'm saying? Because it just looks super like, and I'm like, and they put this thing on, and it confuses the shit out of them. It confuses because they're like, I don't get it, man. You start off with some hardcore stuff, and then you go into Cuba with Celia Cruz.
Yeah.
And then you go into a country record, Gone to November, and then you go into like Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, and then you go into some shit we don't even understand what the hell you saying, Wyclef. What you smoking, man? So I was like, nah, I said, what this is gonna do is it's gonna introduce my generation to like, cause they can't travel as much as me. So I'm like they travel guide through this album. And then so this ended up being like what ended up being the Carnival.
It broke boundaries. It really showed us, man, that you had done this throughout your career, how limitless hip hop was. And I mean, even sampling the Bee Gees, and we were talking backstage, we don't got to get all the way into it. But if y'all go back and go to Genius, look up the lyrics for Staying Alive. It's a diss record. Somebody is getting the business on Staying Alive, man. But just in the spirit of hip hop competition. So even, you know, being competitive on the Bee Gees record was different. And then of course comes the critical acclaim, right? Like that not only was it a commercial success, it was a critical success. Did that matter to you at the time? Was that what was the validation for you, if any?
Well, the coolest thing for me in the Carnival was, I won't say the executive's name, but I went to the executive, and I like validation though, you feel me? So I felt validated because I went to this exec and I was like, yo, I got a cool idea. He was like, fuck, what's that, Clef? I was like, man, you ain't even hear my idea. So for Gone to November, I was thinking Bob Dylan could be in the music video. And he was like, Bob Dylan don't even show up for his own son video, Jacob Dylan, Wyclef. What makes you think he'll show up for you, right? He killed my dream. So next thing you know, Bob Dylan did show up for my video. I felt super validated, like, you know what I'm saying? Like everything they said I couldn't do, they was like, yo, there's no way Spanish music is going to play on black radio. There's no such thing. I was like, yes, there is a such thing. That happened to be Guantanamera. Gone to November with the Philharmonic Orchestra in hip hop. That's the first time they saw that. So yeah, a lot of cool shit.
That's dope. I mean, the brilliance in that record, the juxtaposition, the storytelling, the songwriting of this being a country record, but telling such an urban story. Like when we hear Gone to November in the neighborhoods that we come from, we know what that means. We know the chances that you're about to take. We know the mission you're about to embark on. And then making it a country record, we would think the two worlds aren't supposed to collide, but it goes together so perfectly.
Yeah, 100%. And then what I'm gonna say is every visual that you see from me, that's all coming from my mind. So I'm writing it all out and then I'm giving it to the director. So every time I do music, I see it. I see all of the images, like already in my head. I see the schemes, I see the airport, I see the violins, I see everything. So so know that it's very important, like, so I don't just do it, I can see it at the same time. So Gone to November and Johnny Cash is really literally like the same thing. So for me, we talk about making runs, and we make these runs and we get caught by the Alphabet Boys, and then we don't make it back. So that story was a true story about a cousin of mine. If you listen to it, I said in Baltimore, and then he doesn't make it back, and and it's just his girl is like, yo, where so and so at? Yo, he be back. And so when you Gone to November, you literally making a run. You know what I'm saying? So you making a run, or you Gone to November, meaning you going in the pen and you ain't coming out to a certain time. So again, that similarity to me is the same similarity that I would hear in the country music that I was raised with, which was just storytelling. So like, in the hood that I was in, when they do is like, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. That's just a dice game. Right. You know what I'm saying? Going bad, right? So for me, that's always sort of like how I saw it. And then, I portrayed it. But of course, I have a way of writing where everything is like a double meaning. And that double meaning brain comes from one of my favorite writers, Bob Dylan. So like the way like he would write in metaphor form. So I would say one thing, and of course, when Genius breaks it down, no pun intended, like y'all would give them like the different double or triple entendres to what the word was.
Yeah, we're trying to stay alive, sampling the Bee Gees. And again, it's these mergings of the world, like country and urban, right? Like Latin and urban. And, the Bee Gees could have been like, could have came off as like, oh man, you took too big of a swing and you missed. But it was very ambitious, but you made it work. One of the things that I loved is you shouting out Funk Master Flex. Mr. Funk Master played the Bee Gees, and like the music was dope, but that right there, valid. Like I felt like, how can Flex not play this? Right. After you shouted out the DJ, you made it so hip hop. Yeah. Like, can't front on it. Rest in peace to John Forte.
Definitely, rest in peace to John Forte. You could tell like I'm a movie buff, so I was just doing a spoof of one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Nah, but it worked too, and again, it's bridging, right? Like, cause the line, Funk Master pumped the Bee Gees, and the college students, like it was bringing these worlds together. The streets, like back then, Flex, Hot 97, DJs represented the streets, plus the college kids. Like it really shone like how big y'all became and how wide the audience and the amount of people you influenced. It just wasn't the people where you came from. It was the world being influenced by the music that you was putting out.
Yeah, no, it's deep. I mean, the other day, I think I was listening to something, I think Joe Rogan was talking about staying alive, like at some point. So like, it just, like, again, I came in the game and I said one thing and I'm gonna stand by it. just the idea of like putting people in a box and pinpointing and saying like this is what they have to do. We get artists like Prince and different artists like that, you know, that just don't do that. So my whole thing with everything that I do is everything that they say we're not supposed to do, just go ahead and do it because you're supposed to.
When you look at, because what you were building was a global music scene, especially for us. I mean, I'm from the era where they said hip hop wasn't gonna last. It was just a fad. You was wasting our time. And, you know, some of our favorite rappers only got maybe 3 or 4 albums before their career was done. Now we're talking about 20, 30-year anniversary, so it's gonna be 40 years.
Yeah.
And you and with the Fugees and your solo stuff really built a global bridge, right? What do you think about when you see the global music scene today? I mean, we talk about Afro beats, Latin music, just this fluidity of genres. It kind of feels like whatever vision you was doing in 96, 97 is starting to become like fully realized today.
It's the Carnival.
Do you see yourself in what's going on today? Can you take a step back?
It's in the Carnival.
Yeah.
All those rhythms are in the Carnival. If just go back, listen to the Carnival, and you'll hear. I mean, I don't want to sound like Little Richard and shit.
I'm setting you up. Talk your shit, Clef.
But in saying that, that's what's cool. It's like I feel like what I feel is like we here in America, like musically, within the urban space, we've lost a lot of it. We lost a lot of it. And what we've lost, like what you've thrown away, are being recycled in different parts of the world and are coming and are producing the most amazing genres. So if you go to South Africa right now, you cannot have a stadium like where you could put Brandy and Monica, meaning like the level of R&B. When you look at what's going on K-pop in Korea, the idea of like investing in groups, the way that bands used to be created, you do the artist development. So as we move forward, I look forward to like seeing us like, you know what I'm saying, like a mixture, because it just needs to be more. Like I just feel like it's more, we're only pushing like the one narratives, right? So where are like the Destiny Childs? Where's the next Fugees? Where's the next John Legends? You know, where's the next host? And I'm just saying that it shouldn't be one, it has to be multiple. So I think that the investment has to go back in the talent, like nurturing the talent, because everyone is scared to lose money now, right? So they don't want to put that money in that check. But I feel like someone who really loves music and wants to get it back to that thing has to say, okay, you know what? I'm looking for someone, and we're going to start investing in talent, because I feel like that's going to last longer than anything else.
Nah, word up, man. With what you accomplished on the Carnival, again, where you say all the genres are intertwined into that, I want to take it to Quantum Leap and what these 7 projects are about to be. Can you talk about the 7 different genres that we're about to get?
Yeah, definitely. So y'all gonna get 7 genres. So it's literally, think of like the Carnival, but now I'm putting it in playlist form. So you get your, you know what I'm saying? Like you might be like, nah, this is the Wyclef I want. So let's just break up and put it in 7 playlist form. So Clef Notes is, you know, I have to start off with our generation, which is the most important thing, the bars, what we was raised on. And I have to acknowledge hip hop that made me who I was. The second genre that you will get is going to be the jazz. And of course, as a student of jazz, you can expect me to do what Herbie Hancock or Quincy and them did. Like, it's not going to be like that jazz that you think it's going to be. Where you know what Afro-Cuban jazz is, it's been, you know what that is. So where I come from, we have rhythms. Some of the strongest rooted rhythms. There's one called Rara. which is the sound of the street. So we look, so we look forward to what does rah-rah jazz sound like, right? So this kind of jazz is not like the jazz. Don't think like you're just gonna be sitting down and eating your lobster and your caviar type shit. Like, you feel me? Like, it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be rooted. I listen to Miles Davis' Bitches Brew, some of it, but it's still gonna make you move, it's gonna make you feel. We're very excited about that. The third album that we will be dropping, can you imagine 30 years? I'm practically a Haitian and I've never dropped a full reggae album. so the third album, for all of my people that's been telling me 30 years, nigga, all you gotta do is drop them, yo. So y'all gonna get the reggae album, One Night in Kingston. The fourth album that you're gonna get is one dear to my heart because this is the preacher's son. This is going back to the church. So the gospel album, I look very forward to that. Yeah. Giving back to God, which is the most important thing, and that's like rooted in me. Can't finish the year that. Then we start the top of the year in February. You're gonna get the country album. And after the country album, you're gonna get the R&B album. Okay. And you already know, the features is already in my head for both. And then the last album that you're gonna get is gonna be Le Mardi Gras. And Le Mardi Gras is a celebration of all the culture. Right. So it's sort of like now we put the compa, we put the Afrobeat, we put the merengue, and the features, like you don't know what's coming in, which voices, is it Mark Anthony, is it so-and-so, is it Shakira, is it Joey Duetfile, like just that kind of energy and putting that together. And so that's gonna be like the 7 leaps. And the cool thing about it is, once you have these 7 leaps, it all depends on how you feel. You might wake up and you be like, yo, I'm just in the mood for the reggae, or I'm in the mood for that. But every leap will be authentic to what it's happening. All the project is already 80% finished in the course of like 6 years. So it's 80% done.
When you're doing, because this is so ambitious, again, it like, ambitious as the score was, ambitious as the Carnival was. When you do this, what is the goal for you? Like what makes you satisfied and fulfilled at the end of this Quantum Leap release? What feels like success for you?
I think that, again, I think the 7 is the completion. For me, I feel like this is gonna be, out of all of the music I've ever done, I feel like this institutionalizes it. Like it turns this into a book now. It turns this into a theory. It turns this into what we talk about, not just the idea of like, don't put me in a box, but the idea of actually showing a musician that was alive at a certain time when the technology was at the highest form, and then the human delivered on a higher form, and still can have the technology participate with the form.
That's fire. And as we wrap up,
Yo, winter's coming, like when y'all fuck up, that's the joint y'all play. Dude's like, yo, I already know, man. Call it like, winter is coming.
Man, you've accomplished so much in your career, and we talk not just in music, but for people as well. At the end of this Quantum Leap, and as you get further into your career, what do you hope people take away? What do you hope that people say about Wyclef?
I mean, this whole journey of this span of life, I don't want to scare anybody, but the reality of it is we're in dog years. And as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes, and we have this little tiny space in the middle. And then that little space in the middle is what makes whoever's next coming after us talk about and get inspired by what the next thing is. So my whole inspiration just has been a journey about unification. And that's it. The commonality of us we really want, as much as we want to separate us, just the idea of like, humanity and love, and just the idea of unification, we want.
Right. Yeah. Well, man, I definitely feel the love and the energy just being on this stage with you. I feel blessed.
We family though.
That's it, man. Locked in.
Long time.
Yeah, man. Nah, Clef showed love to me when I first. He didn't have to. He was Wyclef Jean already. And I was just a young journalist coming into the game, man. But he never treated me like that. He treated me like I had a long career and a purpose ahead of me. And that was the inspiration that I heard in your music coming up. That's how your music made me feel. And when I met, you know, they say never meet your heroes. Some of them, yeah. This one, you want to meet this guy, man. So please give it up for Wyclef Jean.